Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and it's been a while since I featured a Japanese vehicle on this YouTube channel. As you can see, I have no idea how long the Japanese voice acting is going to last at the start of the video. I don't know why. People always ask, why do you pause at the start of your video? Why do you tilt your head to the side? Because I don't want to interrupt the commander. That's the one time that I'm not going to interrupt the commander in the entire video, hopefully, right? Unless, of course, I'm playing with some of the anime crew, and then they're going to be interrupting me throughout. Luckily, I have not decided to put any of my anime crew members inside the Type 5 Heavy. I instead have them in the E50M. But I digress. Oh dear. I've already been a bit of an idiot at the start of this game, and so I roleplay Canadian squared. You know, I apologize. Not just once, but twice. Because once might not have been enough to the AE Phase 1 for that little bit of a shunt that I gave them from behind, maybe causing them to miss a shell against the Super Conqueror. So, the Type 5 Heavy. This video is going to be all about whether Wargaming have effectively killed this tank with the HE changes. 155 damage to a Super Conqueror. You see, I paused for a second to figure out, oh, is this really what the HE nerfs have done to the Type 5 Heavy? To put into perspective, these are 900 alpha damage shells with 192 millimeters of penetration. They cost me about 6,000 credits a shot. How much are we gonna do? Well, I guess that one actually missed the turret, hit the spaced armor, and because these HE shells no longer really splash, it's not even going to do anything against the Super Conqueror's space protection. Okay, so maybe about 12,000 credits in the hole already this game for my 127 damage, and yeah, you can already see that I'm looking away in disgust. Wargaming have effectively destroyed this vehicle against heavy tanks in these kind of scenarios. Previously, if anyone remembers the Type 5 Heavy before it was nerfed, and it had that big old alpha damage HE gun, I would have probably done about 400 damage, 500 damage a shot to that Super Conqueror, at least 300. Even with the before the HE nerfs and after they nerfed the Type 5 Heavy's gun, I would have probably still done at least 200, maybe 250, 300 a shell there. Now, I do 223 damage with 3 hits to the Super Conqueror, albeit the one that only hit the space protection and didn't actually hit the hull. And so as you can see, it's not a very good economy, is it? You're wasting 15 to 20,000 credits on high explosive gold rounds, and they don't really do anything. Sure, I guess they could be useful for being able to slowly grind something down if you've got really deep pockets, but all in all, that's not going to work. So I decide instead to work with my AE Phase 1. I'm going to try and be a little bit of cover for them, and I'm going to fire the new round on the Type 5 Heavy. And that is an armor-piercing round. An armor-piercing round with 680 alpha damage and 252 millimeters of penetration. This is a brand new round for the derp gun. Previously, the derp gun on the Type 5 Heavy could only use high explosive rounds. Now with the armor-piercing rounds available, we can actually do pretty darn consistent damage even to heavily armored vehicles. And we can save those high explosive rounds with the new intuition perk to be able to switch them out quickly for the more vulnerable targets. And with the AE Phase 1 that I accidentally pushed around earlier, bumping them and making them miss a shell, I feel like now we've got some pretty darn good synergy. We say thank you to each other, and we managed to turn what looked like an ill-fated loss of the eastern flank against the T-54E1, and something that you really don't want to sit in front of for very long, an Object 268 version 4. And I get through that without a scratch. I still have all 3,190 of my hit points, although the same can't be said for the AE Phase 1, but I do feel like I helped them out there, and they definitely helped me. They gave me the confidence to be able to push through in case I missed a shell or in case I just only tracked the 268 version 4, and that made us get through that eastern flank. And you can see that the armor-piercing rounds on this vehicle are actually very decent indeed. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to change using Wargaming's new intuition functionality to a high explosive round And remember, we still have 192 millimeters of penetration here, although this is really overkill. Now, if I could be bothered in this scenario, I guess I could switch out to a cheap HE shell, or alternatively, I could switch out to an armor-piercing shell to save me a few credits against the FP4005. But who's counting anyway? I've already wasted 20k. You kind of get to that stage that what more do you really have to lose after you're already going to make it? Well, that's a complete utter garbage statement, really. Yeah, I think it's just more of a case of I didn't want to switch the shell out in case maybe the FP4005 decided to turn or move, and I wanted to just get them done there. But I could have free-to-played. All right, talk about free-to-play. Yeah, that's not a free-to-play shell. 883 damage dealt to the back of an AE Phase 1 with these premium high explosive rounds dealing 900 average damage. And this is where the Type 5 Heavy's high explosive gun is pretty much just as good as it was before, if not probably a little bit better, being behind tanks in this kind of a scenario. That, I believe, was an HE round. It could have been a real low roll on my HE, or alternatively, it could have been a high roll on my AP. I don't know. Either or. I should have probably fired HE at the back of the M103 there, although maybe I would have struggled to go through the back of the turret. Now we're going to use the Intuition Bell to get greedy, and we're going to fire at the back of the 60 TP. But our greed is rewarded! Slam dunk, 988 damage into the back of the 60 TP turret, showing you just how darn amazing the Intuition perk is on these big derpy tanks, especially ones that you have a variety of ammunition at your disposal. The Intuition perk has revolutionized the way you can play these derpy tanks, and it's kind of made up for the fact that Wargaming have nerfed the HE so much. The Type 5 Heavy is now probably in a worse state than it would have been before it had its gun nerfed all the time ago. And it's definitely in a worse position than it was before the high explosive nerfs. Although high explosive nerfs and the artillery nerfs have had the effect of there being no self-propelled guns on the battlefield, and so at least the Type 5 Heavy has that bit of an advantage. Wow, clever girl, M103. I thought the M103 was going to sneak up this way, which is why I decided to plow down the slope. We found out that the M103 actually went along the inside and snuck up behind me. GG, well played, M103. You got me good there. Fortunately, however, the Studitzwang 103B has had enough of their shenanigans, and now I'm going to try and do something interesting. I'm actually going to try and shoot a high explosive round through a wall. Oh. Well, actually, it doesn't go through the wall. It goes above the wall and hits the rock. Because now high explosive rounds can actually penetrate through softly armored targets. Not softly armored targets, but soft things on the battlefield, like walls. You can just fire HE rounds right through them, so don't feel like you can hide behind them now in your vehicles. Of course, when you fire the round at it, it is going to lose a substantial amount of its penetration. But if it's hitting a surface that's very weak beyond the wall, then it's still going to be able to do some massive damage, if not all of the damage to the enemy vehicle. Is this really worth it again? I feel a bit bad spending these kind of like 6,000 credit rounds against vehicles that don't even have triple-digit amounts of hit points. But you know what? A kill's a kill, and the Type 5 Heavy needs all the kills that it can get now that its HE rounds have been nerfed, right? So here we are, sneaking up behind the Foch. Are we going to have the final kill of the game? Hopefully. Delicious. Oh, dear. The Leopard just manages to shoot him before we commit to the shot. But the Type 5 Heavy, as you could see in this game, well, I'd say it probably has suffered a little bit with the HE changes, and I'd say the tank was better before. As long as you get the Intuition perk and you know when is the time to fire armor piercing and when is the time to fire high explosive rounds, this vehicle is still darn good. Yeah, right up until people start loading the gold and spamming into your weak points, or even just shooting you pretty much anywhere in the turret. And then you're going to become a little bit of an XP pinata. So an ace tanker here for the Type 5 Heavy with a very meaty amount of base experience of 1,482. And that was because in addition to the 5,500 damage that we dealt, we also did 4,300 spotting, giving us a very healthy near 10,000 combined total. For some reason, it doesn't actually show my ammunition resupply cost here. I expect it was fairly brutal. I think that was because I've taken all of the rounds from my Type 4 Heavy Derp because I'm using the regular armor-piercing gun on that tank. So all in all, while you can still play the vehicle with the 14cm gun, I think having that 15cm Derp with the armor-piercing rounds will be very much better against all but the heaviest of targets. There will be some situations where your 252mm of penetration are just not going to be enough, whereas if you'd use the 140mm gun, you could load the gold and have 290mm of penetration, and then you would be better than with the derp gun. But then you lose all of the capacity of shooting against fairly weakly armored plates, where 192mm of high explosive premium pay to win 6,400 credits a shot can come into play. So all in all, the Type 5 Heavy, it's definitely worse for a player who just wants to load high explosive rounds and shoot anywhere at an enemy tank. But if you're willing to do anything but the bare minimum, get yourself intuition on your loader, get yourself the derpy gun, learn to use some of the armor-piercing rounds, and with good crew skills, your shell switch time is only going to be 3 or 4 seconds, which is very much perfectly workable. And then you're still going to be an absolute behemoth that nobody is going to want to have to deal with on the battlefield outside of all of those gold spammers out there. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And as it's Friday, have a blooming good weekend, whatever you choose to get up to. Enjoy it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.